Welcome, all you amplifier nerds out there, to another episode of Martian's Tube Amp Workbench. On the bench today, we have the mighty Mesa Boogie Bass 400 Plus, an all-tube circuit with, like Mesa stated, around 500 watts output. But that's doubtful. Anyhow, this thing has plenty enough power to cause an earthquake. But why do I call that amplifier a dinosaur? Well, because these amps are big, heavy, and they have tons of tube punch, and because these kind of bass amps are more or less an extinct species. Nowadays, Class D driven amps are taken over, especially when it comes to bass amplification. Smaller, lighter, and with even more power than any tube amp can deliver. And here's a comparison between our dinosaur and a brand new Class D bass amplifier made by Mesa Boogie. Okay, let's open up the hood and take a look inside. This amplifier is in for a good service. The owner bought it for little money because the amp spent years in a damp basement. We can see 12 power tubes and the notorious Mesa fan to cool them. Giant transformers, and they are quite rusty. No big deal, it's just a cosmetic flaw. But it proves that the amp was stored in a humid environment. In front we have the preamp tubes and the equalizer circuit board. Let's see if we find something dramatic when we take a look at the circuit. Well, I have to confess that I'm surprised how clean everything looks. I have seen worse in Boogie amps, but look at the capacitor on the right side. This area was badly burned, maybe busted on fire in the past, who knows? Maybe that's the reason why the seller gave it away so cheap. Maybe he was afraid to fire it up. All right, let's look at the date that we find there. So we can see that this amplifier was made in February 1990. So it's not billions of years old. This dinosaur is from the 90s. And look, somebody tack soldered a wire to the burn traces. Let's examine this not really professional repair. Okay, here we can see that is the heater circuit for the tubes that burned and probably killed the first capacitor. You can see that even the solder joints were melted. Here I'm cleaning up the board a little bit. Yeah, and you can see that solder beads are rolling around. It was so hot that the solder was melted. Look at this. Oops. Before I start to rebuild the burnt area, I'm going to check the grid stop resistors and the screen resistors on the power tube sockets. So we should read 680 ohms on the screen. And here we have it. So that looks pretty good. Yeah, they're all in tolerance, no need to be concerned. The screen grid resistors should read 2.2K. Okay, look at this. Spot on. But we have we have 12 of them. Yeah. Yeah, but again, you see that everything is in spec, everything is fine. So I'm not going to torture you no longer with this boring procedure. Let's take a look at the tube sockets. Look at this. This paste seems to be some kind of adhesive. I guess somebody tried to secure the tube sockets with that shit. Another professional repair, isn't it? At least this gray crap is very hard and will stay in place, but there's no chance to remove that stuff. Working on mesas is always a pain in the butt because you have to disassemble a lot of components to get access to the underside of the board. So you better get yourself a roadmap to make sure you know what's going on. No, not that kind of roadmap, stupid. No, take pictures, write things down so you know in the end what belongs where when you assemble that beast again. Okay, I disconnected the input jacks, the pots on the rear. I also disassembled the send and return jacks from the front panel and all the wires coming from the equalizer. And now again, flip the board. Yeah, thank you very much. And now I can start to change the filter caps. 2 of them are badly burned, the others are more than 30 years old, so it's a reasonable decision to change them all. And here you can see how the excessive heat damaged the solder joints, even on the underside of the circuit board. The rest of the board looks quite clean. No cracked solder joints or burned areas as far as I can see now. I'll take a closer look later on. But this area is really a disaster. Okay, let's go. Here I'm removing all the old capacitors. They are glued to the board with silicone, so sometimes it's hard to remove them. And here I'm trying to build up the burned area, and I'm not going to mess with the burned traces anymore. I installed a twisted wire directly to the heater supply on the board. This solution will be reliable and will last forever. Good gracious, look at this mess. Luckily I have my roadmap, and here is the lineup of the new filter capacitors, trusty high quality FNTs. I secure them with a drop of silicone before I solder them into the board. Solder time. And now the same procedure from the other side of the board. So right now, as you can see here, the filter capacitors are in place. The burned part of the circuit board is cleaned up, though it's still ugly, yes. And the heater wires are connected to the tube socket. And now it's time to take care of all this mess. Fun times reassembling of a Mesa Boogie Bass 400 Plus. A few hours later, everything is back in place, and the wiring is a little bit neater than before, I guess. Yeah, looks pretty good. By the way, another pain in the butt when it comes to mesas is always these little turrets or circuit board holders, whatever. And they get brittle over time and tend to break. But I was lucky. None of them broke, and that's nice. But this one, look at this. A good example of Mesa engineering. This plastic post is bended because it's sitting too close to the resistor. That's a perfect PCB layout, isn't it? But that's Mesa. We have to live with this. Look at these little brown things. These are tantalum capacitors, and some technicians like to replace them. It seems like they tend to fail, but these jokers are testing good, so I'm going to leave them in place and hope for the best. Well, I cleaned the pots. I touched up some suspicious soldered joints at the tube sockets, but the first preamp tube is noisy. You can hear the tapping in the loudspeaker, so we will try another one, a new preamp tube, and see if that solves the problem. But look at the position of the tube. It's sitting so tight next to the output transformer that Mesa Engineering put a pad, a cushion, in the gap. What a brilliant solution. But hooray! The problem is gone. A new preamp tube solved the problem. It's not noisy anymore. Here you can listen to the noise floor of this unit with all the pots maxed out. But it's interesting what Mesa's owner's manual says. And yes, that's right. Turning down the master volume a little bit decreases the noise floor a lot. Alright, now it's testing time, and let's see if everything works. And I apologize, I'm sorry for the shaking camera. Yeah, the equalizer works fine. Everything is functioning. The dinosaur is alive. Well, I'm sorry that I cannot do a real sound demo. I don't have an appropriate speaker, neither I have a bass guitar. So anyhow, I'm sure if I would have the right equipment, I would blow my roof off. But at least I can play a few chords with my trusty old Telecaster. Have fun. See you the next time.